They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. Yes indeed, the old in-laws have been round my gaff again, so I can't make any jokes about being whisked away to the Bahamas by a bevy of blonde beauties. To contain myself though, I decided to take a butcher's at 1991's The Addams Family for the Super Nintendo, which was released just in time for the movie. The game was developed by Ocean Software, who were notorious for being handed the majority of movie licenses and tasked with making a tie-in game type situation with somewhat mixed results. I made an Addams Family game, that sounds like a capital idea to me. How could they go wrong? It's gotta be a hit, right? Jimmy Hill. Well, just like my Uncle Barry and his big bloke mates trying to fit into a Robin Reliant after a boozy pub crawl, it's all gone a wee bit Pete Tong. You take control of mustached bloke Gomez Addams in an attempt to try and find the rest of the family who have been kidnapped, rather than hire the A-Team or indeed taken bloke Liam Neeson, which in hindsight would have been a great idea. Old Gomez decides to do a John Matrix and fight through several insane levels taking place in and around the Addams residence. Typically you start off at the hub entrance inside the mansion and must platform and solve a multitude of puzzles to reach said family members, take on a cheeky boss, and then watch an episode of Countdown. Unfortunately, the Addams Family is just one of the worst experiences I've ever had, yes, even worse than my recent trip to Wolverhampton. Levels are chock full of enemies and traps, and there's just way too many obstacles for anyone to deal with here. I mean, just look at all this I have to deal with, and this is just one level of the game. I mean, good God, is this the Addams Family or a freaking Saw film? You've got your generic ghosts, ghouls, flying heads, balls and chains, and what looks like an army of Nesquik bunnies for some reason. You are not eased into the game in the slightest, and trust me when I say you will die constantly due to the unfair difficulty and high expectations the game throws at you. Now, I don't mind challenging a video game, but this is seriously overkill, Ocean, as each level uses the same nasty traps over and over again, and poor Gomez doesn't even get a chance to breathe. I mean, you can't even rush through the stages, and you have to really take your time, especially when you have to deal with the 5-pointed star pentagonal thwomps. Maybe the owners are from Texas. There's not only that, but also bombs, monkeys on unicycles for some reason. The list just goes on and on. However, old Gomez can occasionally pick up some power-ups to help him, but those are weirdly only temporary and disappear after a limited time or instantly if you take a hit. Imagine how stoked I was to find a sword only for the game to take it away from me 30 seconds later. Jimmy Hill. Man, Ocean are really pushing this one-man army with no weapons versus the world vibe. You start off with a measly 2 hit points and really it's just not enough. Now you can increase this ability to be fair by finding hidden health upgrades at certain stages, but good luck getting there. Honestly, at times I feel like this is Contra, except Gomez doesn't have a gun. Levels take place in a graveyard, an underground crypt, an oven of all places, and a library, and even some underground caves. The only problem is that these levels are way longer than they should be and just cause frustration, throwing you in the deep end constantly with no respite. You do at least have the freedom of rescuing any of the first 4 Addams Family members in any order, and it's only when they have been found then you can rescue Morticia. Oh, cavolo mia. The controls are somewhat decent though. Gomez can jump with B, and this also doubles as a heel stomp on the enemy's heads. Holding down B allows him to jump a little higher. If he has a weapon, i.e. golf balls or a sword, then pressing Y allows him to use them. I did like the inclusion of the flying fez hat, which reminded me a lot of Tommy Cooper or the Madness Boys. This allows Gomez temporary flight, allowing him to reach higher areas and makes the platforming a wee bit easier. So controlling Gomez is great, the problem is the levels don't match his ease of control and it's very tempting to want to rush through the game because of it, only to get shut down 5 seconds later. I have to say that the hit detection is lousy. You will go to stomp on an enemy and sometimes you'll get hit, or I've even had occasions where my back has been turned. I took a hit from an enemy coming at me and I didn't even take damage. It's a very dodgy mechanic to say the least. Plus Gomez can be a little slippy to control, and this is made even worse when you get to the ice and penguins stage. Jeez Louise, this is just awful and really wants to make me question my sanity and why I'm doing this review in the first place. One problem I found with the Addams Family is the game constantly insists that you jump between blocks, and this is super awkward, especially when you're going up or down, and does require a little bit of precision. 9 times out of 10, if there's a bottomless pit or lava pit in your way, then you're almost guaranteed to go down. The game does at least have infinite continues, and you are given a password after beating a boss, which does ease the pain a little, but still you need a mammoth amount of skill and luck to make it through one single stage. Oddly enough, there are some redeeming features though. The Addams Family is incredibly rewarding, with hidden rooms chocked full of cash and 1-ups for anyone wanting to go off the beaten path, and you are rewarded with said 1-ups each time you beat a tricky boss. The puzzles are just so stupid. I mean, I get that I have to hit switches to open new areas or to create blocks to higher platforms, but if I die it means I have to hit them again most of the time. So I'll hit a switch, make progress, and then I'll be further ahead, but I'm blocked off because the game won't remember the fact that I just pushed the switch at all. As much as I don't think the Addams Family is very good, it's almost like the seeds of a great game exists here, but only very briefly. To give Ocean Software the benefit of the doubt, they only had a mere 4 months to develop the game to ensure it would be out to time with the movie. I mean, the hub world is a great idea, and having to try and work your way through them is cool. They even have some great ideas like Gomez getting to ride on a train because he loves trains, and a gondola, but even these sections just feel rushed and are just not as polished as say later Snes games that use the same kind of gimmick. I mean, given a bit more time, I would have loved to see an Addams Family Metroid RPG type game, which would have been a lot more enjoyable, but maybe they just didn't have the time. I mean, the pressures of trying to produce a game in 4 months is ridiculous, but I suppose at least Ocean give it a shot. It doesn't help that the game bears no resemblance to the movie whatsoever. I mean, there's no Mamushka for one thing, and you don't even get to see Festa's bride Abigail, and the game kind of does its own thing. I mean, I think some fun can be had if you can force your way through and memorise every single trap and enemy pattern. You may be able to adapt to the game. There were times I did kind of enjoy the Addams Family, but there's just way too much stuff to be dealing with, and this spoils the experience for me. At the very least, it does give me a warm dose of nostalgia as to how a lot of early 16-bit platform games were, but it's just not enough for me to want to recommend it. Really, I would probably say if you are super curious, then give it a go. If you're a hardcore gamer with tons of patience, then I think you might get something out of it. The graphics, sound and visual style are pretty good for an early SNES game, but like Joe Bloke's chat up lines, it does need a lot of work and polish to balance out the insane difficulty, change the uninspiring bosses, and just give the game a bit more personality. It's a real shame, as I said, there's plenty here that they could have really expanded on. Okay, I'm off now for a few cheeky pints and to check my answering machine in the vain hope that maybe one day Kim Basinger will return my calls. Take care and I'll see you next time.